Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste and a very warm welcome to our Weekend with Wisdom series. In this series, we have been discussing Eternal Wisdom, a manual to life. We are meeting for the second session in this series. We have with us Vinayji, who is guiding us through these talks. Namaste, Vinayji. Let's start this session with an invocation. Sahana bhavatu sahanau bhunattu sahaviryam karavavahai tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari. Over to you, Vinayji.
Hari Om and Namaskaram to everyone. As we learned the morning session, that the eternal wisdom, a manual to life, we learned about the laws of life, the external, the internal laws. We learned about how the ignorance of the laws which govern our life is no excuse. One pays the price for ignorance. We also learned the price humanity is paying, where the quality of life at large is deteriorating drastically the world over. In fact, alarmingly, we realize and see that as the quality of life living is increasing, the standard of living is increasing, the quality of life is deteriorating. The most developed societies in the world are showing glaring imperfections. So we learned that one needs to imbibe this wisdom to be able to protect and immune ourselves from what the world throws at you. Just like we ensure everything in our lives, we must learn to ensure our mind. And this Vedantic wisdom is no better preparation. And you must learn these values in the best moments of your life, so that when life challenges you, you're well prepared, well fortified to deal with whatever life throws at you. We also established that the joy and sorrow that we experience in life is not residing in the objects and beings of the world. One may find it very convenient, very reasonable to blame the world for what you're going through. But the joy and sorrow that you experience in life is not in the objects and beings, but it is purely a state of your own mind. It all depends on how you establish a relationship with the world. We also learned that in order to establish a right relationship, you must make a proper assessment. And once you assess the world, you will have that unique advantage of being able to extract and draw whatever the world be. You will be able to draw the best out of the situations and circumstances so that you can deal with life and progress. Now, this session, I will sail through the human nature and how to discover your true happiness. Now, I must reiterate that we are looking at this eternal wisdom from an applied philosophy, or looking at it as applied wisdom rather than the pure philosophy or the pure wisdom. It's not difficult for me to switch gears and get into the pure philosophic mode. I could quote the Vedic verses, I could refer to these great textbooks, but the objective is not to inform or mesmerize you with these Vedic scriptures, but to find a way how we can distill that pure wisdom into our day-to-day life so that we can see a true transformation within. So it is applied wisdom that we are looking at it. So we'll certainly try our best to understand in entirety what human nature is. Now, the human nature has 4 aspects to it. The human constitution. What is the human constitution? One should learn to discipline your desires. What is the difference between deserving vis-a-vis desiring? And how does one achieve that inner harmony? So to begin with, the human constitution. A human constitution is simple. It has this structure of a physical body. A physical body is just a mere container. Within the container, within the body, you have got the 2 equipments, which is known as the manas, the mind, and the buddhi, the intellect. So you have the manas is like a child, and the buddhi is the adult, or it is the intellect. In fact, the entire philosophy, the entire human endeavor, human spiritual test, if you were to say, is how well you have kept your mind under control. It boils down to your intellect able to govern or police or discipline your mind. So when we talk of intellect and the mind, I'm just going to take 4 simple examples to tell what do we mean by control. If you take example, I took an adult to be the intellect and the child is the mind. The adult should not, or by no means, punish the child. The adult should at always, in all means, should guide the child. A child is full of energy, bubbling with effervescence, enthusiasm, full of fun and frolic and mischief. But all that the child needs to be given is a proper direction. The adult should guide the child so that the child grows. The second example is the intellect is said to be like the banks. Imagine if you were to look at any mighty river, the Ganges or the Brahmaputra or Kaveri or the Amazon or any mighty river. These are huge rivers that gather momentum as they come down into the plains. And these rivers are contained within the strong banks. And as long as these banks contain the river is a blessing. It gives water wherever there is water. It gives food, prosperity, livelihood. Industries are built around these river banks. But very same river, when the river swells, the banks, the same river, it starts inundating fields and homes. It destroys livelihood. The same river, which is a blessing, which becomes a curse. So just like the river is contained within the banks, the intellect must try and control and channelize the mind. The third example, I'm taking this example so that you can relate to the idea. Again, I'm saying the whole objective is to look at this wisdom as an applied philosophy. It is not, it's very easy to switch gears to absolute philosophy. but it's difficult, rather, it is demanding to be able to bring it down to applied philosophy. Now, the third example we are taking is just like a security at a building goes through a constant check of the inflow of visitors coming in and going out, and ensuring that every visitor that comes to that facility is a legitimate visitor. Here's a visitor who is meant to be there, but if there's one wrong visitor, if the check is not done by the security, it has potential or impending danger. Just like the security checks the visitors, the intellect must check every transaction, what comes into the mind, what goes out of the mind, what comes into your personality, what goes out into the world, how alert you are. Now, lastly, I take the example of just like the police would supervise the traffic. The moment you know that there is police, nobody would ever jump the signals or dare to violate the traffic rules or regulations. So just like the police supervise the traffic flow, the intellect must keep a check on the transactions. What is the mind up to? Now, today, what people construe to be intellect is actually mistaken identity. People mistake intelligence. Intelligence is nothing but one has gathered a lot of external information. And when one has gathered information, they mistake being well versed or well equipped with this information as intellect. Now, I'm conveying an idea, you could use it either way, but the word buddhi is a product of wisdom. Intelligence is mere information. So today, it is all intelligence, sans intellect. There is sans means there's hardly an intellect in the world today. Now, I'm not being critical. I'm just trying to make a point so that if there is any truth in it, please try to see it. If you find there's no truth in it, dismiss it. That's your prerogative. Now, Arthur Schopenhauer says intellect is invisible to a man who doesn't have it. So it takes one with an intellect to be able to visualize who has it and who doesn't have it. Rabindranath Tagore, the famous Bengali Indian poet, he says the world is full of sound scholars. This is what I meant. You're all very knowledgeable, very scholarly, well informed, but not sound men. Now, the famous Italian scientist Galileo, he says, I do not feel obliged to believe that the same God who has endowed us with sense, reason, and intellect has intended us to forego their use. So what differentiates a human from other living beings is the intellect. And if one does not use that intellect, we are not living up to the true dignity and grandeur of a human being. Now, how do we measure how much intellect have we got, and where would you exercise the intellect? So your mind, which is the aspect of your inner personality, has these four aspects. Your mind entertains various emotions. Your mind operates impulsively. It houses likes and dislikes, and it is the seed or the root of desires. Now let's take one by one and try and analyze. How is it that you can actually measure your own intellectual development? Now, firstly, as you understand, the emotions is your mind is the seat of emotions. So you find in your mind, there are a variety of emotions, isn't it? There are emotions which are good, there are emotions which are bad. But in fact, if you look at a human is far superior, because neither a plant nor an animal has no emotions at all. A human has a certain emotions, but not the entire repertoire, not the whole gamut of emotions what a human being has. So to have emotions is really a virtue. Now, what are the human emotions one has? Now, if I were to make you all think, what are the negative emotions that come to your mind, that you occupy your mind? There are times where you have anger. Not have, most of the time you are angry. Sometimes we are not angry. That's subjective. So we have anger. You may feel you're envious at people. You feel jealous at people. You have greed. You have fear, some unknown fear or insecurity or depression. The list goes on. I'm just giving an idea to think. So there can be a list of negative emotions, and there can be a host of positive emotions. You could have genuine, pure love for someone. You could express your kindness or compassion or forgiveness, or be very grateful to someone for what they have done. So all these emotions, they constantly keep gurgling in the realm of your mind. Now, all these emotions are a virtue. It is a virtue in a way to have these emotions with you. But the moment these emotions go out of your control, to say so, being emotional is a curse. Now, what do I mean that being emotional is a curse? Now, what do you understand by being emotional? Emotional is when you lose control of your emotions, when you are affected by your emotions. The moment you are affected by your emotions, you are set to be emotional. It's good to have an emotion. Indeed, it's very good. But the moment you become emotional, it's a curse. Now, have you not seen whenever an emotion overpowers you, whenever you become a victim of emotion, you lose your clarity of thought? You just recall moments where anger overpowered you, when you get into a rage of irritation or annoyance. Does it bring the best out of you or the worst out of you? In fact, it brings the Rakshasa out of you, isn't it? You become a demon. You become a personification of a Rakshasa. And you thereafter you feel so remorseful. You wish I shouldn't have done that. And sometimes you see people behaving in an inhuman manner, in an unethical manner. It becomes unbecoming of them. Other day I was watching the Australian Open, which is the first Grand Slam of the year, as you all know. I just happened to see a little portion of one of the matches, a singles match. And this tennis player, he becomes so emotional on the court. He has no way but to express that anger. He sees that he has the racket in his hand, and he smashes the racket on the court. It shatters into pieces. It breaks. He lost control over his emotion. He is warned by the chair umpire. He's fined for his conduct. He can't get over that. He loses a few points. He loses the set, ultimately loses the match. Now, what does it take for a person to reach that level of playing a Grand Slam? And I know as students or as kids, they aspire to become a professional tennis player. I know Jayashrima's grandson is playing professional tennis, or he's aspiring to become a professional tennis player, isn't it, ma? So how many hours and days, it takes years and years and years of effort to be able to get that talent or that precision or perfection to be able to reach that playing Grand Slam. So you become the cream to play for your country or your nation. And to be at that level of a spectacle where you exhibit your talent, you can't control your temper or emotion, and you lose a game where you know you're being watched for thousands by thousands, or you're being live streamed the world over, and you can't control, you make a joke of yourself. Or do you understand the gravity of the emotion? How you can't control that emotion, you lose that opportunity. You may say, oh, I will have plenty of opportunities in my life in the future, but that's not the point. This moment you have lost it. So you get emotional at any point, you lose the advantage you have in life. So intellect is that which handles your emotions. So the best concept or the best example you can think of is, the transformers. And every street corner, every other corner of the streets you find, they are planted these transformers. And you get these step down and step up transformers, the electric supply which comes from the grid, which get all your gadgets wired up and operational. Now, right now, all the gadgets I'm using, I'm able to go live stream to you, is because electricity is powering these instruments. But imagine if the power that comes from the grid directly into these instruments, all these gadgets will be burnt in a matter of few seconds. All the microchips and all that tiny little gadgets, if that power that gets into it, the right wattage, if it doesn't get into it, right volts, that doesn't get into it, it gets burnt. So it is the transformer that controls. So if you don't have a control over your emotions, the emotions destroy your life. So you may have a negative emotion, but you must learn to use it. Anger can cause devastating consequences, but if you know how to use it, it will work wonders. So you must use your temper, not lose your temper. So it could be a negative emotion, but if you know how to use it, it can bring about a positive result. I repeat, if you have a negative emotion and if you know how to use it, it can bring about a positive result. But many a time you may have a positive emotion, and if you don't know how to deal with it, it can bring about a negative consequence. Now I want you all to think, you may have a positive emotion, and if you don't know how to express or control that positive emotion, you may have love for your near and dear, for your own family, but if you don't know how to express that love to the family, it can bring about a negative consequence. So you measure your intellect, how you are able to manage your emotions, how well you manage them. Now the second aspect, how you measure your intellectual strength, is by measuring whether your actions are impulsive or non-impulsive. When your actions are impulsive, when you act on your impulses, impulsive means where you don't think, and act. Your actions are more without a rhyme or a reason. You become, without any reason, you become moody. Your actions are non-predictable. You have mood swings, as they say, because you are impulsive. There is no thought behind it. There is no reasoning. So if your intellect backs an action, then it is non-impulsive. If the mind by itself does anything, it is very impulsive. Now, Sidney Harris, a very famous American journalist and author, he says the art of living consists in knowing which impulses to obey and which must be made to obey. The real art of this wisdom, the real wisdom is you know which must be, there may be many impulses that come to the forefront, that come into your mind. But when they come, you must be able to get them under control. And there are certain impulses which you may get, you may want to obey them. So the real wisdom is measured how well you manage your impulses. I hope you all are with me. It would be lovely if I can get to see more of you all, so I'll be able to interact with you well. Now, the third thing is, I said your mind consists of raga dvesha. Raga dvesha is likes and dislikes. In fact, in the Gita, it is said, raga dvesha viyuktaistu vishayanindriyaischaran atma vashair vidheyatma prasadam adhigacchati. You get the prasada. Prasada is the blessings. Only when you operate devoid of raga dvesha viyuktaistu vishayan indriyaischaran. So if you are able to act, operate in the world devoid of likes and dislikes, prasadam adhigacchati, you get the prasada. In the second chapter of the Gita, the Lord says, now, what do you mean operating devoid of likes and dislikes? What you must understand, throughout the Shastras have portrayed your own mind as your enemy. So the mind by itself is not negative, but if you don't know how to control it, it can be a negative force. Like, if you can harness nature, it's a blessing. There is wind power, there is water, there's natural resources. You need to harness it. But the very same wind, when you are not able to harness it, it becomes destructive. Similarly, nature has provided this mind with a lot of energy. It's like a child which can't be controlled, becomes destructive, isn't it? Becomes a nuisance. But if the child which can be molded and taught and nurtured, it blossoms to a beautiful human being, grows to a matured human being. So the likes and dislikes are dangerous. You may ask me, sir, how can you say likes and dislikes are dangerous? They're very dangerous. Now you'll understand what I'm saying when you look at it from this perspective. Now, what I'm saying is what you like to do. You may have certain likes. Now, it's for you to find out what you like or what you dislike. What you like to do means what your mind likes to do may not be the right thing to do. So your mind says certain things and the intellect doesn't agree to it. I'm not saying my intellect, is your own intellect. If you examine it carefully, what you like to do may not be the right thing to do. On the contrary, what you dislike to do may actually be the right thing to do. Strange as it may sound, baffling as it may appeal to you, but this is the truth. What you like to do may not be the right thing to do. A simple example is you may not like to lead a disciplined life. One may not like to lead a life of discipline because it's very easy to lead an indisciplined life. Chalo yaar, let's do the way I like to do. Get up the time I want, do things the way I want, eat the time I want, eat whatever I want. When I don't like to eat, I don't eat. My mind says, let's go for a movie. Out of the blue, your mind will say something. Okay, what time? 11 o'clock. Find out what movies are going on. And at 11 o'clock, you rush to the theaters to watch a movie. Or nowadays you can see OTP, no? You can see in the screen. Put on the television or your laptop at 1 o'clock at night and watch a movie. Why? I like to do that. No, you don't have a pattern. You're not predictable. What you do, you give into that, then you are defined by that life. You're defined by that kind of recklessness. So all what I'm saying is your mind may throw many things at you, but you should be able to discern and say, no, I want to do this. I don't want to do it. Right. Moving on. Lastly, we're analyzing how your intellect is measured. How much wisdom you have is measured with how well you manage your mind. First, we said how well you keep your emotions under control. The second, we spoke how impulsively you act. Thirdly, we said you must learn to control your likes and dislikes, don't operate on them. And the fourth thing we are examining is how well you keep your desires in check. As you know, the mind is the seed, is a seat of desires. From the seed of the mind, many desires keep manifesting. I'm trying to make it as simple, as palatable as possible. Now, when you say your mind desires something, it is simple logic. When you say I desire something, let's say I desire a jacket. I desire a jacket means I don't have it. Desire is only for something that you don't have. I desire a companionship. I desire love and attention. I desire respect and affection. I desire this or that. So when you desire something, that means you lack it. There is a void or an emptiness in you. You want it. In fact, it is the lacuna, as they say, the spiritual lacuna, the spiritual void, that is the seed of desire. Your desires germinate only when there is an emptiness within. Now, that's a different subject for another day, perhaps. But desires, when you have, desire is for something that you do not have. So when you have a desire for something that you do not have, your mind also says, I am happy only when I get that. So you are pushing your happiness into the future. You are trying to pitch happiness on things that you do not have, which is not the right thing to do. You say, I will be happy if I get that. Don't you say so? You say, I am happy only if I get that. Now, is that the right approach to life? At every stage of your life, you'll say, let me get that, I'll be happy. If only I can get little attention from my children, I'll be happy. If only I can get, you may get it, you may get more than it, but then there is no end to it. You can consume your entire life chasing what your mind wants, and there is no end to it. And you got to understand that, you got to realize it now, this moment, that I have been trying to chase and give into my mind whatever my mind wants, and I have perhaps have been quite successful. But still, in spite of that, you must realize you're caught up in a snare. As the great Swami Ramatirtha, he says, you all are caught up in a snare of 99. It's a snare. A snare means you get trapped in it. You all want only one more, and that goes on all your life. Snares of 99. It's just time to just pause and and see, oh my God, what am I doing to my life? Am I not letting my mind drive me recklessly? Am I not falling a prey to whatever my mind asks? Is it not so true? I'm falling constantly a prey to the mind. Is it not? So all what we are saying is you may get what you want, but you must never ever pitch your present happiness in future acquisitions or future achievements. Never ever try to fix, never ever try to associate happiness in the future. Never ever live in the future. Always try to remain in the present. It's not, in fact, it's very easy said than done. But if you are able, that's why I say again, if how do you measure this wisdom? Is you are able to get this under control. So usually you tend to compare yourself with others. You tend to compare yourself. In fact, when you compare, you invariably compare yourself with people who are more fortunate than you, don't you? A common error we commit is we compare with people who look at that person. Her husband is so cooperative with his wife. My husband is not cooperative at all. Look at that man's son. The family is so well, you are envying them. You don't have something, you are envying them. It's a beautiful saying. I complained that I had no shoes until I met a man who had no feet. So what are you complaining? Why are you complaining? Why do you find a reason to complain and justify your grumbling and complaining nature and try to justify that you have a reason not to be happy? I don't understand. Why should you try to justify your state of unhappiness? I don't think it justifies. There's every reason you can aspire for whatever you want in life. But you must fundamentally learn to accept what life has thrown at you, what has life presented to you, and gracefully accept it and say, yes, I know I have to do something with my life. I know my life will get better, but let me gracefully accept where am I now, this moment. And by accepting this moment and enriching and empowering yourself with this moment, you would certainly transform and make your life blossom. You would be a far better person tomorrow. But that moment of transformation must be this moment now. I must be happy. Am I happy now as I'm talking to you all? I should. If I have a reason to complain, then I'm not a right example. Oh, I wish I had this. I wish there were that. I can go on. I'm giving so much of my time. I hope it was more well reciprocated or responded. No, I can complain. I can complain until the cattle come home. But that's not going to change my life. I must learn to accept whatever life throws at you and be happy with it. So the Shastras have always portrayed your mind as your own enemy. In the 3rd chapter, it says, Jahi Shatrum Mahabaho Kama Rupam Durasadam. Shatrum, Jahi Shatrum. Shatrum is in the form of your own enemy. Kama Rupam. Kama is desire. Your own desire is your own enemy, as in the form of your own desire. And in the 3rd chapter, in fact, precisely the 39th verse of the 3rd chapter, he says, Avratam jnanametena jnanino nitya vairinam kama rupena kaunteya dushpure nanalenacha. Avratam jnanametena jnanino nitya vairinam kama rupena kaunteya dushpure cha. What it means is, he's saying wisdom is covered by the constant enemy of the wise. Who is the constant enemy of the wise? Wisdom is covered by the enemy of the wise in the form of desire, as insatiable as fire. So what is the enemy of the wise? What is that which envelops and blocks your wisdom and challenges your wisdom? It is your own mind. It is your own desire. It is the play of your emotions and how you fall a trap to it. Therefore, the great Swami Vivekananda, in his famous words, he roared to the world, you conquer your mind, you have truly conquered the world. So this Vedantic wisdom gives you that capacity, it gives you that advantage of becoming a true master. And when do you become a true master? By only getting a grip over yourself. Anupam Panditji actually beautifully shared the famous ladder of fall, which we talk in the 62nd and 63rd verse of chapter 2, where he says, Krodhad. In fact, the 62nd verse, he says, Dhyayato Vishayan Pungsah Sanghaste Shupajayate Sanghat Sanjayate Kamah Kamat Krodho Bijayate. Krodhat Bhavati Sammoha Sammohat Smriti Vibhramaha Smriti Vibhramshat Buddhinasha Buddhinashat Pranashyati. So glad, Anupamji, you referred to it. So the famous ladder of fall of a human being, how merely you entertain thoughts, recklessly entertain thoughts, and how they form attachments, and how the attachment transforms into a monster of a desire. And when a desire is not met, you get into a rage, anger. Krodhat bhavati sammoha. It causes a loss of memory, leading to delusion. Smritir bhramshat, buddhinasha. When the memory is lost, when the intellect is clouded, buddhinashat, pranashyati. That is the cause of your own self-destruction. And we see this happening all the time around us. It happens within us. All what we need to do is we need to raise our level of awareness and relate this philosophy, relate this profound wisdom to our practical lives and see where we are, the folly of mankind, as we say. Must see philosophy not in classrooms and textbooks, not in Vedic literature. You must see this philosophy in the mundane experiences of life. That is the reason I chose that this wisdom should be approached from applied wisdom, not the pure wisdom. How can we see this wisdom applicable in the walk of life? In every walk of life, I must be able to relate to this wisdom. And that's when there's a transformation. Now, having understood how your desire, how your mind plays tricks with you, what we therefore need to understand is we should learn to transform or change the nature of our desires. So the need of the hour is you must tap this wisdom to be able to discipline your desires. Now here is an exhaustive analysis as what you need to do to your desires. When your desires are not given an influence or wisdom, when they're not given a direction, when they're not guided the nature of the mind becomes selfish. You become desirous. You start desiring, craving. As in Bhajagovindam, the great Adi Shankaracharya says, no, Mudha jahihidha nagama trishna kurusad buddhim manasi vitrishna yallabhase nija karmopatham vittam tena vinodaya chetam. So he says, Mudha jahihi dhanagama trishna, give up your thirst for that craving for acquiring wealth. So if you don't govern, if you don't seek Govinda, if you don't seek the higher values, you fall a prey to that avarice or lust or greed or impulses. You become selfish. And you lead a life of non-yajna. Non-yajna. In fact, he says this world is not designed for the non-sacrificers. If you are not a sacrificer, you're not wanted by the world. Nobody wants a taker. Everybody wants givers. And if you are a selfish man, you're not wanted by anybody. Imagine if I keep knocking at your door every now and then because of our familiarity, you may invite me once, twice, thrice. But every time I try to knock at your door, drop by to seek some personal favor, a time will come, I say, this fellow is simply coming to just take use of me, man. Simply abusing my goodwill. You will try to respectfully avoid me, and then you will ban me. Last, you will banish me. I am not wanted by you because I am a taker. So you got to understand, no taker is wanted. But if you are a giver, you will be wanted. So you must transform the nature of your desires from selfish. You must change it to unselfish. You translate your mere craving into an aim, an aspiration, or an ambition or a goal. You pitch up a target, pitch up a purpose, motivate yourself to work in a spirit of yajna. And in the 4th chapter, he says, every human being is born with this yajna. Saha yajna praja shrushtva purovacha prajapatihi. When the Prajapati, when the Creator created mankind, he created all of us with this capacity to perform yajna. Saha yajna. Saha yajna. You are born with this capacity to perform yajna. Saha yajna praja shrushtva purovacha prajapatihi. Anena prasalvishyadvam eshavostvishtva kamadhuk. Let that kamadhenu, the kamadhenu is that famous cow of the celestial sage Vashishta, isn't it? Vashishta had kamadhenu with him. And Vashishta, that kamadhenu was the fulfiller of all grants, all desires. So once you work with that spirit of yajna, let that come and fulfill your life. So life is not merely meant to merely fill all what your mind wants. Mind is not a mere vessel to be filled. Oh, my mind wants this, my mind wants that. Don't just invest your life and time and energy in just trying to chase and fulfill what your mind wants. It is not a mere vessel to be filled with all your wants and imperfections and desires. Mind is a fire to be ignited to serve a higher cause. Can you ignite that fire within you? Right now, are you inspired to serve a higher cause? It is not a mere vessel, mostly treated as a meaningless vessel to just keep asking and wanting whatever they don't have and just keep trying to get and chase behind. But it is not all the purpose of life. Life has a greater purpose. It's just not mere acquisition. It's just not having fun, chasing what you want. It has a greater purpose. So this gives you an insight into what is the human nature, what is the human constitution, and why you need to keep your desires in check. And if you do that, invariably you will find yourself that life will give you whatever you deserve. The famous law which governs, when I say famous, is you keep hearing that in Vedantic circles. The law which governs our lives is you get what you deserve, never what you desire. You always get what you deserve. So when you surrender, you do your dharma, you do your karma, you do it as selflessly, as unselfish, or as sacrificial, as selfless as you can. Just do your karma, do your dharma, and let that providence, let that totality decide what you deserve. Invariably, what you deserve is determined by what you do. But if you do your part well and surrender, why should you complain about anything in life? And if it doesn't come to you, accept it. I don't deserve it. But what do I do to deserve it? Do some more karma, do some seva, do your part well. And if that part is played well, you will be able to find yourself much better placed in life than what you are today. Okay. Now, leading you all further, the next aspect is how you discover the true happiness. Now, the few elements that cover this concept, I'm not going exhaustive. It's not possible to do justice to these concepts. They're profound ideas, but I'm just sailing you through the salient features, which perhaps gives you a line of thought, gives you a direction to think. So, what is the terminus of life? What is the difference between true happiness vis-a-vis false happiness? What truly is happiness is said to be cessation of agitation, and how you should have no memories of the past and no anticipations of the future. Now, the terminus of life, everything, when I say the terminus, the only purpose of life is to reach that state of godhood, to reach that state of infinite happiness, to reach that state of knowing who you are. That is the very purpose of life. Whether you seek company or you avoid company, whether you seek comfort in materiality or you part with materiality, whether you go to the seas or you seek the mountains, wherever you go, whatever you do, whether you eat or you fast. Some people are feasting, some people are fasting. Why? For happiness. Everything that you do is for happiness. And you hardly come across anybody in life who can say, yes, sir, I have found that happiness because I know I am searching for it, knowingly or unknowingly, willingly or unwillingly, ignorantly or knowingly, I'm searching for it. But yet, yes, I found it, sir. You can hardly claim. I will not challenge. My objective is not to challenge anybody here. As I said, it's a humble attempt to do justice to this grand wisdom. And if I can invoke that wisdom in you all and the process of seeking it, I've done my part. My job is not to challenge you, but I would want to hear from you. If anybody says, sir, yes, I have found that happiness. I have reached that state of contentment and I have found it. I have nothing to complain or grumble. If you have, that means you have truly reached, well and truly reached the terminus of life. So what is this happiness? Happiness is said to be a state of no agitation. So happiness is cessation of agitation. Where there are no agitations, you are said to be in that state of happiness. Now, the problem, why is it that people are constantly chasing for happiness? People are constantly chasing for happiness. As I said, you desire for something that you do not have. You look back, put the clock back 20 years back into your life. 20 years back, you were at some stage of your life and you desired certain things. Few years down the road, you got what you wanted. At that point, were you happy? You had said, oh, sir, if I find myself in a better position a few years down the road, I would be a happier person. That mark has passed. Years have rolled by. Has the happiness quotient increased? I'm just saying arbitrarily. Let's say your wealth was 20% wealth you had by your just arbitrary, I'm saying. Let's say 20% wealth you had. There was some quotient of happiness. With your effort and sincere efforts, you have raised your wealth quotient from 20% to 40%. What has happened to the happiness quotient? Again, with consistent effort, you have raised 40% wealth to 60% wealth. Has your happiness quotient increased? You come much later to a point where you have 80% of what wealth you think you should have had in your life. With your position, status, efforts, you say, I want this much. I'm not giving a figure. What is your imagination of your wealth? Has your happiness proportionately increased? Very rare. As the wealth, as you have kept advancing in your life, sadly, the spiritual quotient has not also advanced. It's a point to ponder. In fact, the famous words of the German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer, these are famous quotes you kept hearing and learning, so it's apt to share them. He said, it is difficult to find happiness in oneself. It is difficult to find happiness in oneself. It is impossible to find it anywhere else. So profound, so meaningful, so impactful if you can relate to it. This moment, you'll start looking elsewhere. It is difficult to find happiness in oneself. It is impossible to find it anywhere else. And all what we're doing is we're searching for happiness where there isn't. And I'm reminded of a simple, innocuous story which conveys such a beautiful message. There was a very elderly lady, with her walking stick, barely able to stand and walk. She was somehow holding on to a walking stick and she was searching for something. And a few passerby saw this lady struggling and they also started searching. And a few more joined and they said, what are you all searching for? She said, we're just trying to help this lady because this lady, poor lady, old, impoverished lady, she says she has lost her needle and she needs the needle to stitch her tattered clothes. So looking for the needle to help her out. And half a dozen or few more people started searching. And they searched so thoroughly that they didn't find a needle. And all of them went up to that lady and asked, Amma, we have spent 10-15 minutes searching for it and we don't mind searching further, but can you please tell me, where did you lost your needle? To which she said, oh, thanks for asking. I lost my needle in my hut. What? You lost the needle in your hut? Then why are you searching here? No. My hut, there is no electricity. It is all dark. I don't even have a candle to search. Here, the street light is very powerful. There's so much light. Therefore, I'm searching here. You can search for the rest of your life, but you'll not find a needle because there's no needle there. But if you invest little time and effort at a place where it is lost, there's a greater chance of finding it because the needle is there in the hut, not on the streets, under the street light. That is the foolishness of mankind, the folly of mankind. That's what the great Shankaracharya says in the Bhaja Govindam. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja, Mudhamate samprapte san nihite kale nahi nahi rakshati dukrin karane. All your pursuit that you are so consumed and occupied with is of no use. It will not serve any purpose. Oh fool, Buddhamate, why don't you seek Govinda? Seek the truth, seek the higher, seek this wisdom. That is when perhaps you will do some justice to what the human purpose and purport. The human purpose is to seek happiness, which is the terminus. You will find happiness and contentment because this is where it is. It is there within you, not in the external world. So don't be charmed by the external temptations, the folly which Sita did. Sita in Ramayana, the great Valmiki also tried to point out, isn't it? Sita was so happy and contented because all the time her thoughts were on Rama. It didn't matter whether she was in the comforts of the palace or whether she was struggling in discomfort in the jungle. She was very happy because she chose to be in company with her husband. When Rama was sent to Aranyavas, she said, where my husband is, there I am. And she said, your company is all that I seek. I don't want the comforts of the palace. I don't want to be living in comfort and knowing my husband is in the forest in Aranyavas. I don't want that life. I choose to be with you. So she opted. It gave her so much joy and bliss because she was in company with Rama. She was reveling in bliss until that moment that arrived, where at a distance she saw a golden deer. And all that mattered to her at that moment was the golden deer. And she fell for that temptation. And you know the rest of the story. So you must gather enough wisdom and strength to say no to it. You may have all that your money can buy. You can have all that what you can acquire. But remember that by itself is not going to give you what you are seeking in life. What you seek in life, what life can give you through external acquisitions is way, way less. In fact, it can't give you anything permanent. It's just transient. It's passing. That's what the deer means. Deer means you can't get hold of a deer. The joys of the world are like the golden deer. Golden means they are tempting. Deer means it's fleeting. They are attractive and fleeting. There is no permanence in the joys of the world. You want to find the joys, get to Rama. Get to the Lord, get to the self, get within. So the terminus of happiness is within you. Now, if you expand this further, and if you dare to ponder, you will know the difference between true happiness and false happiness. What is true happiness? What is false happiness? Strange as it may sound, life is full of contradictions. And I hope you all are thinking along with me. Life is full of contradictions. Anything that is beneficial to you has an unpleasant beginning. Anything that's detrimental to you has a pleasant beginning. Like I took example of exercise. If you want to exercise, it is not pleasant. It is unpleasant in the beginning. To sweat out, to lead a life of discipline, it's not easy. So how is life designed? So how is life created? You go and complain the creator, don't ask me. Now, if you look at the creation, as in the 18th chapter of the Gita, it is said, he says, sorrow appears in the mask of joy and joy appears in the mask of sorrow. Imagine sorrow wearing a mask of joy and joy wearing a mask of sorrow. Everything in life is like this. So false happiness is like amruta in the beginning. Amrutam, aha. To do anything wrong is pleasurable. To lead any indulgent life is pleasurable, amruta. I know people, when they eat on paratha, they say put extra makhan lagao. You put extra makhan, pure ghee. All that, where does it go? Directly go and gets transmitted and translated as fat and cholesterol and disease. That we'll see later on. We'll pop in a few more pills for cholesterol and for other diseases. But for now, let me eat one more scoop of this and that. Like nectar in the beginning. You're just trying to fall a prey to your mere palate, man. Grow up. But poison in the end. The consequences are poisonous. But true happiness is like poison in the beginning. Any happiness which is of a true nature is poison in the beginning, but end is nectarine. So don't fall a prey to this kind of approach. There's a Japanese saying, anything that fast rots fast. Even you see in the market, when the season has arrived, they try to ripen these fruits with chemicals to ripen fast so that they can sell in the market. Very soon they start rotting because all chemical induced. It's not naturally ripened. There's nothing natural about it. It's not organic. So I hope you relate to the idea that true happiness is something which is poison in the beginning. So would you like to eke happiness through the right means? If I were to lead an ethical life, a life of integrity, you may say, what is the use of goodness? It doesn't pay off these days. But one who believes in these higher values, one who believes in the path of righteousness and dharma, and he pays the price of living up to the higher values, upholding his conscience. It may take time, but no sooner you will find that life fulfills you. You found that what you're searching for is happiness. Remember, your spiritual quotient is measured by your happiness. Your material quotient is measured by the wealth of what wealth can buy. Wealth is only a means of buying or exchanging with other commodities. As the great Swami Ramatirtha says, iron and gold are good for buying iron and gold. That's all. You have iron and gold. With iron and gold, what you can exchange it with iron and gold, that's all. You can't trade iron and gold and buy happiness. You can't trade iron and gold and buy peace of mind. So the material wealth of the world can't give you that spiritual happiness that you're searching for. I'm not saying you should not have iron and gold. Please have as much iron and gold as you can acquire ethically. But if you acquire unethically, that is going to cause extreme pain and agony. As Shakespeare says, uneasy lies the head that wears the crown. You acquire wealth not in the right way. I'm explaining false happiness. You may make quick money, fast stripe. You don't want to work organically. You may want to find shortcuts and achieve more. But that reward of that is you pay the price. What is nectar in the beginning is poison at the end. I'm just pausing so that you also pause with me. Continuously, I've been talking now. I'm sure you'll agree that I need little rest to my throat also. Don't you think so? What, sir? Subramaniam, sir? You'll agree, no? I need little rest now. So that, in fact, it is not a rest to my throat. I can go on talking for the next hour. I've decided to talk rest of my life. I don't know if anybody will hear me out. But the point is, am I communicating? My humble attempt is to communicate this wisdom. But if I can make you all pause and examine your own lives, I can't do that for you. I can only help you through this wisdom so that you pause and look into your life. But if you can examine and see where you can bring about that corrective measure, where you can bring about a paradigm shift in your attitude to life, your approach to life, you will realize the wisdom will embellish you. This wisdom will transform you inside out. So irrespective of your material quotient, you should continuously advance your spiritual quotient. Now, I'm not running a workshop or a training how to advance your material quotient. There are plenty out there will tell you how to advance your business, how to multiply your money, how to make your money, how to make money. That you go out into the world and find out. That is not my job. That's not my role. So you must understand that a human has got these two elements. You have that material quotient, you have that spiritual quotient in you. But you must understand this is not dependent on the other. I can have little with me and I can be rich with that. I hope you're getting what I'm saying. I may have little and I can be very rich with that. I can have plenty, I can still feel poor with it. So richness or poorness is not measured by how much quantum of the world you have. How happy you are is not measured by how much you have acquired or how much you're yet to acquire. The spiritual quotient is measured by how well you have got a mastery of your own mind, got a mastery of your own desires. And how do you get over your desires? Not get over, ultimately, you have to get rid of it, because man minus desires equals God. God realization, the very terminus of life, is to get to that Godhood. That is when all your desires are negated. But that's the ultimate stage. But please let me not fall a prey to my mind now. So in a very practical sense, who is a rich man? A rich man is, your richness is measured when your desires are contained and are less than your income. When your desires are kept well within your ability to satisfy them, you're a rich man. Now, at this moment, are you able to keep your mind in control? Oh, sir, the world has opened up, as you know. It has been my long desire that I want to go on a cruise with my family. But what to do? After the world has opened up, everything is shot up. what I had budgeted before the COVID, post-COVID, 30% price have shot up. So my desire is to go and sail and see the world in a cruise liner. And my current commitments and budget is not allowing me to enjoy that holiday with my family. Myself, my wife, my 3 kids. I would like to take my parents, but I can't. My in-laws also want to come, but I can't. Impossible. So what is it? My desires are more than my income. Am I rich? No, I'm poor. But the moment your desires are less than your income, you're a rich man. So just constantly keep evaluating yourself. Are my desires within my income, or are they spilling over? And one who has the wisdom, one who has invested little time in seeking this wisdom, it reflects in the famous words of the Gita. In the 18th chapter, he says, Atma Buddhi Prasadajam. The prasadajam, the blessings of wisdom, is in the form of Atma Buddhi, a blessing born from clarity of one's intellect. So one who has the wisdom has that clarity of thought, has the capacity to not only monitor, manage, but give a real direction to the mind. You don't fall a prey to your mind. So in this session, we have studied the human nature. We've understood what the human constitution is. A quick recap of what I've said. We understood that your mind consists of desires, likes and dislikes, impulses, emotions. The way to check your wisdom is to measure how well you're able to manage your emotions, your impulses, your likes and dislikes, the raga, dvesha, and your desires. You must bring about a certain discipline and transform the nature of your desires from being selfish, I and my, to a larger cause. You must learn to operate with the spirit of yajna, to serve a higher cause, not just think of your own selfish, self-centered interest. And once you do that, you surrender to the law or plan of nature and accept whatever life providence provides you, because life gives you what you deserve, not what you desire. And then we understood that happiness is the terminus of life. Whatever one does, every effort, every endeavor, every act you take up is to find happiness. Now, when I was approached to, could I be a part of this exercise of the workshop Weekend with Wisdom, I accepted because I believe this would give me happiness. And it certainly is, because I am enjoying doing what I love to do. I wouldn't do something which I don't enjoy. No way. So everything you do is for happiness. And we also said happiness is not in the things and beings of the outside world. True happiness is within you. So the more extroverted you are, the more outward you run, you will find you will be fooled by the outer charm. You will have to go inward, and the moment you turn inward, you'll find that that fountainhead of happiness is within you. As Christ says, the kingdom of heaven is within you. You've got to realize it. And no sooner you turn inward, you'll find your life becomes so much more peaceful, so much more contented. There is no more that anxiety or excitement or the rush, all that subsides. You know, when you see at the rough seas, when the sea is rough, the waves are the high waves that go few meters up and they dash down. So the surface is very rough. The sea is very disturbed. The huge ships also, they are not stable. They're rolling over. But those who go a little deeper, not at the surface, they go deep into the water. They say the best place to meditate is at the seabed, they say. I've had a friend who was a deep sea diver, and he says, oh, the best place to meditate is the deep sea. Now, well, then you have to say, no, sir, am I to go deep into the sea, go to the bottom of the sea? Like I must also sink like a Titanic to find meditate there. No, I'm just saying the moment you go above the disturbance of the surface of the sea, you go a little deep, you find everything is so calm and still. So you are at the surface of your personality, you find everything is disturbing. The moment you go deeper, the moment you go inward into yourself, the moment you become introverted, you find that fountain of happiness, the fragrance of happiness, the true happiness starts emanating in whatever you do. You become a true embodiment of peace and happiness. Like when you look at a child, don't you go and feel, even if it's a strange child, don't you want to go and pluck the cheek? It is so cute. Why? Because the child is an embodiment of happiness, embodiment of joy. You become that embodiment of peace and happiness. So terminus of happiness is within you. Then we understood that true happiness always has a bitter beginning. It's poisonous to begin with, but it's nectarine at the end. False happiness is nectarine in the beginning and poison at the end. So please don't fall a prey to anything that gives you instant pleasure. Must have the capacity to, the clarity to be able to see the difference. And if you are able to seek the wisdom, you would be able to invoke the blessings of the wisdom, Atma Buddhi Prasadajam, blessings born of the clarity of your own intellect. And this is where I would like to conclude. This is, my dear friends, the second session, an insight into the eternal wisdom, a manual to life. If there are any questions, if there are anything that you would wish to ask, I'll be more than happy to clarify them.
To such an enlightening session. The seekers can post your questions in the chat box, or if you would like to speak, you could please raise your hand. Devi Prasad ji, please go ahead.
Namaskar, Vinayji, and other things. Per se, our philosophy, Indian philosophy, particularly based on Upanishads and Gita, per se, they don't, encourage the desires to be totally unhealed, Like Buddhism, where it failed, total annihilation of the desires. Whatever you mind, if you say no, it get attracted to more towards that. No, so I think there is a moderation. What is taught in our Gitas? I think. Please elaborate on this point a little bit.
Right. Deva Prasad Garu, as you say, the nature of the mind is that it tends to do exactly the opposite. When you tell a mind not to do something, can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
Okay. I think Devi Prasad ji is having difficulty.
Devi Prasad ji, are you able to hear us? You're on mute, Devi Prasad ji.
Sorry, I missed the answer. Totally.
I'll come back again to it.
Okay.
I was just trying to mention that the nature of the mind is it tends to do exactly the opposite.
Yes.
So when you tell a mind not to do it, it will do it.
Yes.
If you say do it, it will not do it. Because that is the very nature. And knowing its nature, it is unnatural approach of molding the mind.
Yes.
You can't force a mind to do anything, because the law is anything forced is never forceful. So we are not trying to force the mind to do anything or to take to a particular path. But with the intellect, with the wisdom, if you noted, I had taken examples of an adult and a child, the banks and the river, the security and the visitor, the police and the traffic. You only supervise, you only guide, you only channelize, you inspire the mind to a higher aspect. You don't have to put any force. If you are trying to force the mind, that means your mind is showing certain resistance. It will not work. It is short-lived. Like you take New Year resolutions to get over certain temptations. It will not work. The only charm is there as long as the New Year day is there. Very soon, you will replace it with something else, if at all. So that's not the way we are recommending, or the Shastras recommend. What we are saying is, only when you have the wisdom and the intellectual strength, and if you are inspiring the mind to pick up something higher, then the mind will naturally follow it. So it has to be a healthy control. And coming to the point, you said that our Shastras, or Buddhism for that matter, doesn't talk about complete annihilation of desires. In fact, all religions, for that matter, only talk about ultimately you have to get rid of your desires. Because even the concept of mindlessness, what is mindlessness? Amani bhava is also talking about the same culmination where you are completely devoid of desires. But it is the highest state of spiritual perfection where you have completely transcended desires and reached a state of desirelessness. But one has to be very realistic and see where you are now and deal with your desires in a very rational and very realistic way. Don't force your mind. But ultimately, once the mind is mature, the lower desires drop off. You don't have, sir, if I were to simply ask this inappropriate question, if I were to say, you would say, so you still have desires for marbles? As you were a kid, I know you would have grown up playing marbles. I remember in my younger days played marbles, and I used to count my marbles end of the day when I got back home. How many marbles have I lost or gained?
Yes.
Are you interested in those marbles, sir, anymore? Well, what are you talking? You're looking at me and my age, you think I'll be interested in the marbles? I see my grandchildren playing with marbles, you might say. Now you see, when you have grown up and picked up the higher values, the lower desires have dropped off. They naturally drop. Similarly, when you spiritually evolve, the lower desires and the lower values drop off. Ultimately, when you hooked on to seeking moksha, the higher self, my goal is seeking enlightenment, nothing matters to you. You want to get to the truth. Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. Everything in this world is no meaning, no substance. Ultimately, you will grow to that level. One would rise to that level to say, I should not fall a prey to any temptation. You will only seek the self. That's the culmination. Slowly, you and I will grow to that state. Right, sir?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have another question, but we are already 4 minutes after our session. So
I'm okay.
Okay. Could we take the question in the next session, if that's okay?
Okay.
Or Sri Hariji,
Yeah.
Is it okay if we spend a few minutes and
Sure.
Answer this question?
Okay.
We can take this
I would
last
request-
question.
Yeah.
Thank
Sure.
you.
Babu Sundarji, you could please ask your question.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure going through listening to Mr. Vinayji. I am listening to him for the first time. I am from Kochi. This information regarding this was given to me by Soumyaji. Anyway, I am going to directly to the question. We are talking about desires, and we are thinking of, and as per your advice and the way you have been stressing on, was to contain the desire. Rather, I would say that it will be better if you have only desirable desires and no undesirable desires. But as I understand, desires has got another meaning called vasanas. Desires comes to you based on the vasanas you have accumulated through your various births, like what we call it as the Sanchita Karma. How do you address this question? Hope my question is clear.
Very clear, Babuji, if I can call you, very clear. And in fact, the concept of vasana was not in the purview of the context of discussion, so I did not broach on that subject. But it is not wrong to say that vasanas you have or one has, the vasanas manifests as desires. In fact, vasana first manifests as thoughts in your intellect, as desires in your mind, and actions in the body. So until a vasana manifests itself, you would not know whether you have a vasana for it. So through the course of other journeys in the past births, we have acquired a huge sum of sanchita karmas or sanchita vasanas. So what this wisdom suggests us is, when you imbibe this wisdom, just like the wisdom is like always compared to the sun. You know, as the sun rises, all the darkness of the night gets dispelled away. So the antidote for darkness is light. The antidote for ignorance is knowledge. So once you imbibe this higher wisdom, the vasanas or desires get burnt away. So vasana is nothing but an unmanifest desire, sir. Desire can be said as a manifested vasana. So if I have a vasana for something in particular, it manifests as a desire in my mind. But if you don't have a vasana, it will not manifest. So let the knowledge address, in fact, the knowledge, it has so much power that it deals with known vasanas. It also takes care of unknown vasanas. You may not know that you had a certain vasana, but it gets uprooted from the root itself, and you will be much lighter where you evolve spiritually. So it doesn't matter whether you know it or not. If you continue to imbibe this wisdom, it eradicates the vasanas. Ultimately, man minus vasanas, or man minus desires, equals Godhood. All right, sir. I would leave you all with these thoughts.
Thank you.
Any further clarification, we do have as a couple of sessions more. so we can take it up further. Thank you, Sheriji.
Thank you
Thank
so
you very
much.
much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will meet again tomorrow. We'll have 2 more sessions, as Vinayji pointed out. We'll meet tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock and in the evening at 5 p.m. I request all the viewers to join us for the upcoming talks as well. Let's conclude with the Shanti Mantra.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.